Hello everyone, how are you all doing? I'm Sachina back today again for another topic, which is mental health and men. Um, a topic different from the kind of topics that we do earlier, but this month we thought maybe this will be one of the good topics to take. So, Sachin, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Nitin. As usual, it's a fun topic to discuss, quite controversial, quite stigmatized, and just the way we like it in terms of it's quite nuanced, I guess. And I think there's so many avenues to this particular topic itself. It's sometimes difficult to even know where to start. But I had some statistics that I would have loved to share with you in terms
Perfect.
of.
So let's begin with those statistics themselves.
Perfect. So the statistics I'll share for India to start off with, and these numbers are with regards to um, the suicides that we get to see. Because if we are understanding that mental health is real, mind is real, and if psychological pain is real, then suicide becoming a result of this high psychological pain that someone is experiencing, especially due to poor mental health. So these become a very important area. And to just see how bad it is reflected on India, we lost 1,70,000 people to suicide in 1 year. Uh, I mean, these numbers are by itself so huge. I mean, this number is actually comparable to the number of deaths that we had by road accident in India for that same year. We lost 1,70,000 people to road accidents. However, knowing that the number is big is just the first step, right? For example, when we hear that the number of suicides is 1,70,000, how much of this portion was by men? If that number, would you be aware of this number? What percentage do you reckon?
Probably 60%, 60-65%.
Very close, 70%. So, bang, 70% of the deaths by suicide that we see in India are by men. Um, this in itself should raise a big alarm bell, right? Like, what the hell is going on? And there is some deep diving that I would like to do because I have some exposure in terms of walking through this lane with people, right? So, 1,70,000 people, so upwards of 1 lakh or just about around 1 lakh people have died by suicide that were men. Now, the question here is how many people would need to have attempted suicide? Because I'm trying to get the journey back to the mental health paradigm, right? So if we define that for 1,70,000 people to die by suicide, you would naturally assume that more people would have attempted suicide, right?
Yeah.
Right? And we can see this number by just comparing it with the road accidents. So for 1,70,000 people to die by road accidents, how many people would have had
Met
to
with an
have
accident.
an accident? Now
Yeah.
that number, I won't let put you to the guessing game again. That number is around 4,50,000, and these are reported numbers. So for 4,50,000 road accidents that happen in India, 1,70,000 people lose their life. This is the equation you have. Now, can you imagine, Nitin, how many people would have to attempt suicide, right, for 1,70,000 people to die?
It will be more than the road accidents.
Now, this is because you have exposure to mental health, right? But for a layman, if I were to give this number, they would probably say maybe 2 lakh, 3 lakh, less than road accidents. Because, Nitin, you, me, all of us have been witness to a road accident, either been in one or seen one, or someone close to us has been part of it. But if I were to ask the same question, how many of us have experienced suicidal thoughts or had someone in there around them who must have died by suicide? So have you had any exposure to suicide? Very often people say no. And the myth needs to be busted right from here. So if I were to now just put you in that guessing game again, sorry, can you guess what would that number be? How many people would have to attempt suicide for 1,70,000 people to die?
So I don't think I know the exact figure, but I what I know, and I think this will be interesting for everyone who is watching us right now, that while the number of men who die because of suicide is higher than the number of women who die because of suicide, at the same time, the number of women who attempt suicide is
Very
greater than the number of men who actually attempt suicide.
This is a very mind-boggling thing that you have shared, and I think it we will if there is time that is allowed, I would love to explain that correlation as well, and we could delve into that as well. But coming back to this very question, just to kind of complete this chain of thought, how many people would have attempted?
Probably 7 lakh,
7 lakh? No,
more or less.
more.
Okay, uh, around 10 lakhs.
No,
No? We are talking about reported figures, right?
yeah.
Don't know.
Yeah. The number, so to find X here, the equation goes like this. For every suicide, completed suicide that happens, there are 10 to 25 attempts. We can see almost 25 attempts happen. That's when one person dies by suicide. The point is, none of us get trained to kill ourselves. I
True.
know this may sound very dark, but this is, if we have to look at it very objectively, what we understand is, so to kind of get back to that number, then what is that number? How many people would have had to attempt suicide? Now, if you had to see that, that would be around 42 lakh or 420,000 attempts will have to happen in the country in 1 year. This is almost 10 times the road accidents, right? Now, if this wasn't scary enough, and this is where the deep diving into the numbers itself comes into play. For 420,000, yeah, 4,20,000 people to attempt suicide, how many of them would have had to have suicidal thoughts?
That number, though, I guess, would be. Matlab, it will probably not even be estimated even in the near approximation.
But there are, because there in some countries these calculations have been done, so there is a number
Okay, so what's the number?
times 20.
Okay, I actually guess it will be more, to be fair,
Wait,
because
yeah, but I have to get there. I have to get there, right? So that means now we have come to a grand total of 8.4 crore people would have to have suicidal thoughts. And the number doesn't stop here, Nitin. Now imagine for 8.4 crore people to have suicidal thoughts, how many people in the country would need to have mental health issues? Are you understanding the challenge here? And WHO has been screaming that almost or over 50% of India's population is dealing with mental health issues. Over 15% of Indian population is dealing with mental issues with which needs psychiatric intervention. Over 15% is dealing with psychiatric issues, right? So now that I've presented those statistics to you, what are your thoughts that come to you?
no, but okay. So even if we were to keep the statistics aside a bit, if you were to look at people around you, how many of those people actually are comfortable talking about what is happening in their life?
Exactly.
Right?
And
Now, that in itself should give you an estimation of how many people have issues that they have been um, dumping into their own system because they've not been able to have an outlet. So, when we talk about obviously the number about 15% requiring psychiatric help, that's something, especially given the population of India. But if you were to explore further and really recognize how there are so many other cases which may not even get reported.
Thank you. We have a number for that too. I can show the statistics for that because Nimhans has done the research on this. What they have identified, the underreporting, what you're referring to here is that many suicides in India do not get even reported. Now, now this underreporting among men is to the tune of 25%. So 25% of Indian men suicide does not get registered as suicide, right? It is an accident or whatever act of God. And then it's 50%. Now, for women, this is even scarier. The number is over 50% of suicides among women are not registered or reported as suicide. Now, there is a massive stigma that is there here as well. Why don't we report? Now, one of the predominant things in India is that suicide or attempting suicide is a criminal offense, that it is considered to be a crime. Unfortunately, the law has been updated. When I say unfortunately, the unfortunate part is that people are not aware of this. However, the law has been modified. Suicide or someone attempting suicide is no longer a criminal offense. Why? Because the Mental Health Act of 2017 has identified that suicidal thoughts, a person dealing with suicidal thoughts, is actually showing that their mental health is going through a bad phase. And what they need is not logic or correction or advice or solution, but what are they requiring the most is connection and help.
Right. And if you criminalize the
As soon as you
reporting of
criminalize
it,
suicide, yes, because
yeah, so then you
consider
can't really
COVID,
seek
right?
help. Yeah.
Consider COVID. There was a time we didn't even go to buy paracetamol because we had criminalized COVID in our mind. Because if you go take paracetamol, तुम्हें COVID है, police को inform करो. Now, as soon as it becomes something that is worthy of reporting, or it's automatically stigma comes into play that I cannot talk about it. And the absolute worst part of it, Nitin, that completely breaks my heart, is that for most of the people, if they actually try and understand what suicide is, which is in fact your mind's way of communicating that you are in a lot of psychological pain, a high degree of psychological pain. This is your mind trying to show via intrusive thoughts that you're having, a lot of pain and you need to get help. This is what your mind is projecting. And for most of us, in fact, 1 out of 5 people, this is as per WHO, 1 out of 5 people will experience suicidal thoughts at some point of time in their life. India is the suicide capital of the world. So this number is not just 1 out of 5. For India, it's more like 2 or 3 out of 5 people will experience suicidal thoughts. The point is, when someone is experiencing, especially in the passive suicidal phase, they themselves are struggling with these thoughts. These thoughts can cause fear, anxiety, panic, and a lot of issues for the person themselves, right? Unfortunately, though, because it is stigmatized, because there is criminality associated, help seeking is kind of looked down upon, especially among men. What we see is there is no, people are just not reaching out to get help. And this becomes even more crazy for us. Why? There was a research done to see the help seeking behavior amongst people, and what they found, men in Asia, especially India, China, these are the people or the demographic in the world that shows the least help seeking mentality, or help seeking as a skill is the least evolved amongst this group. So what we are seeing is a mental health pandemic going on, low level of awareness, coping mechanisms that are highly destructive. Plus, when the person needs to get help, instead of the social, cultural association or understanding or relationship with pain and asking for help is such that it becomes highly stigmatized. And in this effervescent mixture, you add in the modern day complications, technology, corporate rat race, responsibility of family, have to earn so much money, need to get married and run a family apparently, and have to have these cultural responsibilities that are um, uh, that do not play uh, I think play hand in hand with the general consensus that we have, even around, for example, let's say, uh, um, uh, equality of gender for that matter, right? So there are some conversations, but then there is the other side, the MRA, men's right activists, and there is some negative connotations that come in with it. And that's why I think it was a bit of a difficult conversation for us to talk about men and mental health. Uh, as if, do we even need help? And what's going on for this highly privileged gender?
So that's actually one of the things, right? Do we really need help? Why is this question only with respect to mental health? To be fair, men need help when it comes to medicines and doctors. You have issues with health, right? And you do go and seek help. Men also need help when it comes to do go to gym now, right? To be able to manage their physique, to be able to manage their health. They do seek help of a professional in the gym. So it's not that men don't need help, nor is it that men are not willing to seek help. Actually, there are enough places where men are seeking help.
Mm,
Predominantly, this becomes a bigger problem when it comes to mental health because it's expected that men will be mentally stronger,
right. This
right?
concept of strength and weakness that gets into the picture. Yes, but please continue.
Right? And again, ironically, men will be stronger mentally, and so they can't seek help for mental challenges is okay, and yet men who are also ideally supposed to be stronger physically can seek help for physically developing their health,
Sir,
right? So that contradiction is just also because of the way society has shaped us. In my personal opinion, it's also the fact that when we are growing up, we have been told you can't cry, you can't share, right? Luckily, those things are changing now. There are more and more youngsters, um, boys who are willing to talk, who are willing to share. But even if I were to take expand it a bit, it's not and just not limited to men. There are certain families where even girls or women would be told that you can't cry, you can't share, you can't talk about things. And again, this is not to say that we are asking you to cry. This is simply saying that there are places where you need help, where there's a lot going on in your mind. There are a lot of emotions bubbling up in your system, and you need to be able to share those emotions, share what's happening in your mind with someone around you. Okay? And when I say share with someone around you, depending upon the degree of emotional challenges that you may have, and depending upon the degree of chaos happening in your mind, sometimes just having a friend to talk to is enough.
right? But then, Nitin, this is the challenge, right?
But
Because for men,
but
getting help is easy,
sometimes
right?
but sometimes talking to a friend may not be enough. This is even if you have friends that you can talk about your emotions to. Now when you bring it back to men, how many men actually talk about their emotions to each other without a peck of
Many men know
alcohol,
about emotions.
which is another question.
So, would you say, like, for us to have this conversation, should we be looking at also breaking down these concepts? Because it feels like for a majority of men, these are just concepts that we don't have much use to in my life, because my life is structured. I need to get this job done, money earned, tap, tap, tap. I have these logistical requirements that I need to kind of focus on, and mind, mental health, emotions, these are more or less just luxuries. I hope I'm not like grossly
Yeah. So
um,
let me put it this way, right? So there's one part of the story for people who are struggling with the day-to-day issues, right? For them, for many of them, it actually feels as if mental health is a luxury for a couple of reasons. One, they need to invest time and effort towards it. But to be fair, people do invest time and effort also towards physical health, right? Second is also the cost of quality help available, which is at times a concern. And again, I'm saying cost of quality help available, right? So that is also a concern, and therefore a lot of people also look at it from a point of view of luxury, that if I need a good practitioner, then I need to have a particular budget that I need to invest in. And then if I have to invest in this particular budget, my family would know about it. If my family knows about it, now there will be question marks. So there is this ripple effect that gets created because of all of these factors,
So
right?
you are
And
also
this,
kind of pointing out to the support system that they may have,
the
which
support,
may stop them from even appear to look like they are helping, they are asking for help.
correct. And that's one of the reasons why you will notice a lot of people, a lot of men who have emotional challenges, you will notice them drifting towards spiritual groups more than moving towards a therapist. The
Right,
reason is very simple. When I'm going to a spiritual group, hopefully in the spiritual group, there are meditations that are being done, there are breath work that is being done. A lot of spiritual groups have also started incorporating many concepts from mental health into their uh, offerings, right?
right.
Um, but when I'm going to a spiritual group, it's more, I'm becoming more spiritual, right? As opposed to, I have a problem and therefore I'm going and seeking help from a therapist.
So when we are looking at mind, what you're saying is we are comfortable pivoting our thought process as, oh, I'm becoming more spiritual and more wholesome as an individual, rather than working on these emotional mental challenges that I'm facing, because I don't want to use those terms because that shows weakness. But if I have anger issues, if I have anxiety, and these are emotional issues as well that I may be dealing with, I would rather try and somehow focus on well-being. and and this is
Correct,
where the gap is, right? A
correct.
person who is in red zone or orange zone of mental health, them working for well-being, does this even work?
So here's the thing, right? I actually think partially that's also because of how we have formulated this conversation around mental health.
Right.
Because we also, when we're talking about mental health, we seem to focus a lot on mental health issues as opposed to mental well-being, right? As long as we keep focusing only on mental health issues, going to a mental health practitioner will always remain a stigma, because to go to a mental health practitioner,
For
I
sorting
have to acknowledge to myself
it.
and acknowledge to people around me who will know that I'm going and seeking help, that I have a problem, right? This is actually one of the places where I think spiritual groups have done their market segmentation quite well, because most people who are visiting, and again, there's nothing against any spiritual group. Some of them are doing some really phenomenal work. Okay, some not so, but that's a separate issue. But coming back, the idea is that if we keep focusing purely on challenges, then for a person to come and visit you or me is also a question, because when I'm visiting, I can't say I'm going for mental well-being.
Mm.
Also think of it this way: while we are saying that people are not willing to seek help for mental health issues, right? There are motivational programs which are left, right, and center filled with people.
Right.
What are those people going in the motivational program for? It's not a skill building program where they're learning how to ride a bike or how they can perform a task better. It's basically an emotional upliftment that they are seeking. And most people who are seeking that emotional upliftment is because they're struggling because of inaction or procrastination and so on.
Right.
So
So
why
now
is it that
the
they're so
interesting.
why is it that they're comfortable going to a motivational
Mm,
workshop, a
mm,
spiritual group? They're
mm,
still seeking help,
mm.
but not actually to a professional who can.
Actually make an impact. And the important point that you brought out here is how people, or we are looking at mental health, all of these from the perspective, from the lens of whether it's good, strong, weak, and all of that, instead of looking at it from the perspective of skill building. Like, what are we doing is to play better cricket. Let me watch Lagan before that. हम ये कर रहे हैं. Instead of working with a professional who knows how to develop your cricket playing skills, or if you have a problem that is coming in the way, that then either you will need someone more experienced who can work through, help you with the problem, or if you're trying to improve yourself, a different type of person will come in and help. A coach will come in and help you. But what am I doing? I'm trying to watch a highly emotion packed 10-15 minutes or 1 hour session and kind of psych myself up, kind of give myself this dopamine boost, and kind of in a way tell myself that I've achieved it without even putting in the effort. So
So let me take that further, right? So you gave the example of going to a coach. What I'm also clarifying is, let's assume there is a coach who says I only coach the worst people in the world.
right,
Now will you go to that coach?
right. So it's not going to improve or get better or develop my cricketing skills. I am
Even if
more,
it does.
sir, मैं बहुत खराब cricket player हूँ.
Correct. So even it does. If I For me to, even if that coach is the best coach in the world,
Hmm.
but if that coach says I will only take the worst players in the world to coach,
Hmm.
why would I want other people to know that I'm being coached by this person? Why would I want to invest money where my family would know that I'm being coached by this person? Because that assumes, or in fact, that establishes that I'm the worst player. So
Right,
this is what I'm also bringing to your awareness, that while we keep talking about the stigma and we keep talking about the fact that there are families, there are upbringing, there are societal rules, there are so many things that are happening.
right,
But even us as people who are creating awareness, we need to be able to expand the way we are exploring and talking about mental health. So yes, it's a good idea to talk about, like we are talking about men and mental health. It's a good idea to talk about suicides, but it's also a good idea to talk about the fact that there are so many people who may be currently men who may be going through a good phase in their life can seek help from a therapist to ensure two things. One, hopefully they would never have to go to a place where there is a societal issue that comes up,
right,
because they are working with a practitioner to develop the skills, to develop the coping skills, and all of that. And second, they can do so much more in their life, right? So I would want to go to, going back to the coach example, I would like to go to a coach who tells me that, all right, I take the best people and I make them even better, as opposed to a coach who tells me I am only going to work with the worst people. Now,
right.
here when I'm saying worst people, it's just an example, a metaphor to help you understand how this equation between mental illness and mental well-being gets played out in people's mind.
Right. So we are not looking at the entire spectrum of mental health, but very often we may speak more about the red zone impact of the area of the mental health, and shall we look at it in this way? How about we use the next maybe half an hour to kind of, because men apparently the biggest thing that we get is that they don't want the touchy feely stuff. Kind of tell me objectively or logically what are we talking about here. So maybe just to kind of in simple words explain, there is something known as mind. It is different from your soul and your spiritual health and all of that. There is something known as mind. If you can learn more about it, you can go by Indian philosophical lens or Western, whichever way. And in this modern day and age, the requirement or the pressures and challenges and the need for it to operate in a optimal condition, if not excellent condition, at least in an optimal condition, it's the need of the hour. And you have this army of people who work in this space who can help you in different areas, like just like we have the gym instructor for a good gym instructor for you to build muscles or your body goals. You will go to a good gym instructor. Similarly, you may go to a life coach to get, so these parallels that we have in gym instructor and a life coach, a physiotherapist and a psychotherapist and a doctor. So if you want to present that thought I think that would be really helpful for us to put our head around it.
Correct. So that what you've put up is completely correct, Sachin. So, matlab, our entire uh, focus, as far as at least the way I look at mental health and mental well-being, has been this: that if you make mental health as aspirational, even people who have problem will be willing to visit practitioners simply because not just for themselves. Even when they have a conversation with others, it becomes easier for them to say that, oh, I am actually going because I want to improve something, as opposed to I want to resolve something, right? And that is a big challenge and that people face, and that probably is one of the best ways of breaking the stigma that people are experiencing.
Now, one of the biggest questions or pushbacks you may get on this, Arey yaar, I mean, why isn't it just a money wasting exercise? Like, I'm trying to increase money. I'm just, again, the stereotypical, questions that get thrown, that I'm looking to improve or get more money, make my life more, improve the quality of life that I have, and these aspects. Why would I now spend money to kind of work on myself, and do these things even work? Like, does life coaching even work? Does therapy or psychotherapy or counseling, do these things even work? What do we mean? What does it look like when this works? And as a man, what should I be looking out for? Who should I go to for my different needs?
So all of these are brilliant questions, but first let's just break
Right.
this, right? Everything that you have, every question that you're asking me is correct even for spiritual growth. Nothing that you've asked me is only applicable to going to a psychologist.
But with
It's also
spiritual,
it's second.
hmm,
It's also applicable because spirituality for people is as abstract, if not more. Correct. So if the idea was, why am I investing money in myself? For someone who is not investing money in themselves, even for going to a therapist or a motivational workshop or a spiritual group, that question is valid because I'm not investing money in any of these places. But if I'm investing money in a spiritual group, because spiritual group programs are also paid many times,
hmm.
motivational programs are also paid many times. So if you're investing time and effort and money over there, right, then that argument that about money and about time is actually unfair to put on mental health, or sorry,
But
on visiting a therapist.
fair,
It's okay because that you're already investing that money. We are just saying that there are better professional. Okay, probably better is not the right word, but there are, if you're not receiving help over there as much as you would like to, then there are alternates available. So maybe explore the alternates, right? So that's one part of the story. Then comes the second part, which is fair enough that in order to go to a therapist, I need to invest an X amount of money. Um, what do I get out of this? So let's answer this. So isn't that the role of a therapist to answer that to a person? So when you visit a therapist, there are specific outcomes that you have in your mind.
so what
In
outcomes can I go with? So for example, right now I feel I'm doing a good job at my company or wherever I work or my business. It's going well. There are things that could definitely get better. I would like us to have a better place, better standing, and I have I want to have even better quality of life. Now, what is going, like, how will a therapist or a life coach help me in this
perfect.
vague area?
So the role of therapist and life coach will slightly be different. So right now, because we've begun with talking about suicide and mental health, I would stick to what the psychologist will do,
Sure, sure.
right? And then we can probably just summarize what role the coach will play. All right. So I'm already doing well, right? But there's a scope for improvement.
Well,
Am
I'm
I
running
doing?
out of ideas how to
Am,
improve.
am I doing everything that I need to get the results that I want to get? So, for example, if you were to tell me that Nitin, everything that I should be doing to create the kind of life that I should create, I'm doing that, and I'm also able to create that life. Okay, then enjoy. Don't
Right.
fidget with the working combination.
Obviously, that's not why I came.
Right now, I'm if we are having this conversation, and this is actually true for almost everyone, no matter who we talk about.
Hmm.
Either there are things that I should be doing which I am not able to do to achieve my desired outcomes, or I am doing everything I can, and yet something or the other seems to go wrong at the end moment. These are the two possibilities.
Right. Or I feel like I'm doing all that I can, but somehow things are not working.
Correct. So when somehow things are not working, which means in the end, I'm not getting the results that I was looking for.
Right. Right.
Right? Now, if I'm not doing everything that I need to do, and it could be something as simple as, you know what, I know I need to go to the gym because that will give me more energy. Otherwise, I feel very lethargic and then I don't feel like working. So if I were to get up in the morning and go to the gym, I will have more energy to accomplish more.
Now,
But,
see, over here,
but,
simple. Huh.
but, but the thought of going to the gym, I, for the God of me, I've paid multiple times to a gym and I have not gone to the gym. Now,
Right.
if I know this, and you're saying this, right, that I have paid to the gym, but the thought of going to the gym, that itself tells you there's something wrong with the thought,
Now,
right?
because I'm feeling like when I go to gym, am I not burning energy? How is this helping me feel more energy? Like, I know it sounds
Correct, but
very basic,
this
but
is this is specific to a person who says I'm already paying to the gym and I know going to the gym will give me more energy because I feel
right,
more energetic after activities,
right,
right? So for those people, this will not be a question that why should I go to a gym? Otherwise, they wouldn't have paid to the gym,
right,
right? But then there could be other people, right, who may say that, you know what, I know I need, if I can get that 1 hour every day for myself, I get very productive all throughout the day. All I need to do is sit comfortably in a room by myself, probably watch something, listen to music, or just sit and read a book.
right.
But I find it very difficult to say no to my family when they want to spend time with me. And I know when I'm spending time with them, it's not quality time. It's really round के ऊपर. But if I could just learn to say no to them, but I'm not able to. I look at my child's face and I feel, yaar, and then I'm angry at the child.
Hmm.
So if you know this, that I need to set that boundary, and you're not able to set that boundary, and if you were to set that boundary, how would it impact your overall life? So all of these changes are actually tangible, measurable changes.
Right.
Again, going back to the a part of the problem is that it's also been true for therapists that they've bought into this idea that the kind of work that we do is so profound, so qualitative, that at times you may not be able to notice tangible shifts in your life, but it will improve the quality of your life. Really, what does that mean?
Exactly, right. It's this entire mumbo jumbo that is created around it. That's why we are having this conversation. Let's break this down. But yes, please continue.
Correct. So it's important that as a therapist, when a client comes to me, I should be able to help them understand what are the tangible changes they will notice in their life. And it's actually not that difficult. All I need to do is ask the client, what tangible changes do you want to see in your life? That's the answer,
And
right?
all these things, and just to kind of get the point there, that these are not necessarily things that, oh, what could I do more? These are not what your challenges are. Very often things are stopping you internally. It's your thoughts and feelings that are coming in the way of you. For example, the beautiful example you gave of a gym. I know going to gym helps me, but I am not doing it. Somehow or the other, or always find a reason, excuse, or time is just never enough. Whatever you may, but I will find myself on Instagram for over 2 hours and whatnot. But if I'm seeing these things, so I have to be able to admit to myself the first time that this is not a knowing issue. I know what the problem is, but this is more with my thoughts and feelings that are coming in the way, stopping me. And
So
it's not
I would
about, bole?
so I would actually put it slightly differently,
Ji,
right?
bole.
You don't want to acknowledge that it's a mind issue, don't acknowledge. I'm saying there are so many practitioners available who do the initial consultation free. The first session they will do free, where they will sit with you and they will help you understand um, how therapy can help you, whether therapy can help you or not,
Right,
right? Just go and visit them once. What is the worst that will happen? You will give them 1 hour. In that 1 hour, they will be able to have a conversation with you. They will either tell you that, you know what, currently maybe therapy is not right fit for you, or you will realize that, all right, this is not the right therapist that I need to work with. They've not been able to give me a tangible understanding of what will change in my life. That's the worst
Right.
that will happen,
Right.
right? Many a times it's just about, all right, let me just explore this one option. And that exploration is important because no one, it will be very difficult for people to go to everyone's house and ask them कि अच्छा आपको free consultation चाहिए क्या. But utna you can. And one of the reasons why we do these kind of sessions is to actually bring to the awareness of everyone around that there is help available, even if you're not sure whether therapy will help me or not, whether I should invest money in therapy or not. There are a lot of good therapists, expensive therapists also, who actually do the initial consultation completely free.
Right.
For this reason, because they understand that clients or people at times don't know how therapy will help them. So sit with them, have a conversation with them, and see how that can help. And because we started this entire conversation with men and mental health, let's go back to that earlier assumption, which I don't necessarily agree with, that all men are more logical,
Right.
right?
No, not at all. Right.
Right. But even if we were to just specifically look at those men who are more logical, okay, logic says currently I'm in a challenge which I'm not able to address myself, or currently I want to achieve an outcome which I'm not achieving at the pace I need to. There is X amount of help available. One option available is going to a therapist and having a conversation once, right? This is as logical as it gets. And then once they visit the therapist, then it's obviously the therapist's job to be able to explain to them how therapy will help them, right? I can give you a list of things how therapy will help you, but the point is that not all of them will be relevant to you. And then you will think that, oh, but then this is not what
So
I am
that is
looking for.
precisely why I was just kind of looking at helping them, or being able to mentally acknowledge to yourself, right now there is a thing that I want to do and I'm not doing it. I should be able to see that there is a gap between what I want and what I'm doing. And if I sense there is a gap and I don't see any physical reason why that this gap exists, then being able to understand that what is happening is probably a bit more internal, this is much more mind related. And guess what, there are tangible results that you can get if you get the right help.
Correct.
And that there are people out there who have been trained in this particular field which looks so intangible and flimsy and thoughtful, and ye kaise hi samajh payenge, how will they ever understand and even help me. And very often this is where that other myth comes into play, where you go to a counselor or therapist or life coach and what you're expected to get is advice. And as a man, I don't care for advice. I'll handle it. I will fight my own battle. I will find my own way, and I'll be the first of the first of my name, or whatever spiel you want to put it. But could you also maybe break this myth, because I do feel again these are all the myths that are kind of attacking on that non-help seeking and I am strong mentality.
One, again, when, okay, in general, when you're growing up, when you wanted to do well in a subject, didn't people join tuition classes? Are we saying boys, while growing up, never went to a tuition class? You went, right?
Yeah.
And
Hated
many
it.
a times you were already really good at something, and yet you joined the tuition classes.
Right.
Well, for example, in my case, I have been very good with maths and accounts all my life, right? And yet the only tuition that I had joined was maths and accounts. Why? Because it just made my life easier. कि ठीक है यार, चलो मतलब वो he the teacher will be able to explain certain things to me. So this point that men don't like advice or men don't like help is actually not necessarily true, because as men we have had issues where we have been asking for help, right? It's just that issues related to mind, where I have to acknowledge not just to myself but to world around me. So that's one part of the story. Second is the tangible thing that you spoke about and the advice bit that you spoke about. So any therapist who gives you an advice, please change the therapist.
Now,
Okay, matlab, I can't,
give me
I can't be
examples.
more
Give me
clear.
examples, because I mean this particular myth Nitin, is so ingrained, so ingrained. Like they may even say, I have had therapists, I have had deans of colleges that are pushing out therapists. Tell me that, right? So we don't give advice. Yes, we don't give advice. But if they ask for it, then give.
So, but that's partially also. So now it's sort of. Anyways, so a part of this is also because of the education system as far as psychology is concerned, that we are a part of, right? Sadly, most practitioners don't really have the skills to be able to work with clients. They have a lot of theoretical understanding, but they don't have the practical skills. So when they sit in front of the client, and since they don't have the skills, when client is seeking help, you want to help them. Therefore, you go into this field. So how do you help them if you don't have the skills to help the client find their own answers? You try to give them the answers, right? So that is a bit of a problem. Also, to come back to your original problem,
But
how do
isn't
we
that
explain
helpful?
this?
Now,
How do we explain this? What is the therapist ideally supposed to do?
thank you.
So let's say a client comes and tells you that I experience, that I procrastinate, right? I need to, so I need to wake up in the morning and I am not able to wake up on time. Let's take that as an example, right? Now, what would an advice look like? An advice भी रात को जल्दी सो
Alarm
जाया करो,
lagao, jaldi
अलार्म
सोने
लगाओ,
jao.
एडवाइस जल्दी सो जाया करो, नेटफ्लिक्स एटलीस्ट मत देखो, right? All of these are advices. What is the role of the therapist here? The role of the therapist is, all right, so currently what is the structure that you're following? What time do you sleep? What time do you wake up? I get that structure. How much time do you think you need to sleep for proper rest? I get that number of hours. Now, if you need to wake up, at what time do you need to wake up? So let's say I need to wake up at 6 o'clock. So to get that amount of sleep, at what time do you need to sleep? At this time. So now the client says, but you know what? Even when I sleep for 8 hours, when the alarm rings, I am not able to.
I have 10
Uh,
alarms.
I have 10 alarms, but I don't wake up. Perfect. So now, if it is an advice, the advice will be थोड़ा maths equation वाला alarm रख लो ताकि आपको दिमाग लगाना पड़ेगा, alarm थोड़ा दूर रख लो, and all of that. एक ही
दौड़ने
alarm
वाला
लगाया
अलार्म
करो,
लगा दो, आपको भागने पड़ेगा उसके पीछे, उठ
आपको
जाओ.
भागना पड़ेगा उसके पीछे. So all of this is advice, right? What should a therapist role be over here? All right, so when the alarm rings, what happens? What is that first thing that comes to your mind because of which you want to continue sleeping?
Yeah, 2 more minutes or
Yeah,
something.
2 more minutes. Perfect. And what is the emotional state that you experience when you have that thought, 2 more minutes? In the morning, I feel bored and lethargic,
Yes. I just feel like it is the best time to sleep. I'll tell myself, oh, it is the perfect temperature or whatnot, whatnot. And I don't want to leave the comfort of
perfect.
the bed.
So now the client has told you what the thoughts are, what the emotion is. Right? Has there ever been a time in the past when you've been able to wake up on time or before time?
Oh, when there was a fun thing that I had to do in the morning.
Perfect. Brilliant. So now, what are those thoughts that actually help you wake up? So when you had fun things to do, when the alarm rang, what was it that came to your mind?
Oh, it's so much fun. I have so
Right?
much to do and I don't want to miss out on anything. So I better get
I
up.
had someone once telling me that the only time I have woken up early is to go to a gym because I realized in that gym there is this person who comes who I have a big crush on. So the moment the alarm rings in the morning, the first thought in my head is still I will get to see her.
Yeah, it wasn't
I
the
will wake up,
gym.
and I'll go to the gym, right? So now what do we know? That I am not able to wake up in the morning because I have certain thoughts, and I'm able to wake up on other days because I have certain other thoughts. There is no advice that the therapist is given over
And
here.
this is the tangible part that we are talking about here. So when we are talking about mind and its intangibility, understanding that this thought in the morning, the first time when you asked me, the thought that I had like, yeah, 2 more minutes, yeah, what boring, or whatever. These thoughts are essentially the programs that are essential for me to do or task, or, have the motivation to do or the energy to do what I'm expected to do or what I want to do. And how when these thoughts changed, again, instead of looking at the situation, I have to look at my internal environment, my own thoughts and emotions that are coming up, that help me engage with my goal or engage to with the work to reach my goal that much more effectively, right?
Correct. And in this, there is no place where a therapist is actually giving you an advice.
Exactly.
Especially in the world that we are living in now, you genuinely, matlab, what advice can any therapist or anyone give you? Which, to be fair, ChatGPT will already not give you.
Right.
Right? The problem is not the availability of advice or information. The problem is lack of being able to implement the information that is available because of certain limitations or certain challenges that we have internally.
Or should we call it, in this particular scenario, it is subject matter expertise? Like, for example, um, see, you helped me in both ways, right? You were trying to help me in the previous example where you gave me options, are alarm laga le, dodne wala alarm laga le, and falana falan. Over here, you look like you're trying to help because you're coming up with situational helps that may. But the challenge is not that. Challenge is not the alarm. Challenge is nothing else. However, something inside them. Now, when you have identified it, you being able to make it tangible, call it something, give it a name, and the expert, which is the psychologist, therapist, life coach, whatever is on the other side, they are not giving you advice when they are able to break down that journey of yours into seeing, all right, so these are the thoughts, or this is what your internal environment is looking like, this is what your ideal internal environment should look like, and there is a gap between these two. Now, for example, when a therapist even is helping you develop this perspective or insight, it's the subject matter expertise that they're sharing with you. It's more factual information that they're sharing with you rather than an advice or opinion.
So actually, I wouldn't even go to the extent of them sharing an factual information. The okay, so let me break the role of a therapist down for you in this way. The role of a therapist is one, to be able to ask the right questions to you. Two, to be able to listen to you and ask follow-up questions. Three, to act as a mirror in a way in which you can hear yourself as to what you've said
Right.
and understand where is that gap coming.
And this has to happen without the therapist's own image or own thoughts and opinions coming in the way.
Not even the therapist telling you that, okay, so I think this is the thought that is a problem over here.
Yes.
So the therapist is not even identifying that problem. The therapist is simply saying that, all right, so you've told me this thought helps me wake up. This thought gives me the reason to continue sleeping. Between the two, which is the thought that you would like to have more regularly? I'm not saying which is the right thought, which is the wrong thought.
Right.
I'm simply asking in order to achieve the outcome that you want to achieve, based on what you've told me, between the two, which is a better option that you would like to have.
Right.
Right? Then comes the next part, that once the client understands that step or that gap and understands how to bridge that gap, the primary role of a therapist is then to have the tools to help you bridge that gap. So you may know what is the new thought that I want to have,
Mm.
but you may not know the right process to condition that thought.
Right.
So the role of the therapist here then is to actually help you change the thought pattern in a way in which the new thought that you wanted, that you selected, becomes as natural and as automatic as the original thought that you had.
Now, brilliant point, and I think this kind of makes, understanding that mind as a component, what we are talking about are a set of thoughts and feelings in a way. I know it's a much, I've oversimplified it, but for the layman. So, and these thoughts and feelings are the one that we are able to access, evaluate, acknowledge, and even look at changing, altering, so that we are able to have the life, or live the life that we want for ourselves, right?
And not just this, no, we are not just saying that these thoughts and these emotions can be tangibly identified and changed. I'm actually saying that whatever was the original challenge that you were facing, which was a tangible challenge, right? I am not able to perform as per my desire. I have a conflict with my partner. My health is not where I want it to be. All of these are measurable, tangible challenges that people experience,
Right.
right? You can actually trace back what are the thoughts, what are the emotions, and then if you were to go a bit deeper, what are the beliefs, values, positive intentions, past experiences, which are eventually leading to this particular challenge. You will then be able to change this. And when you change this, you will also notice a change taking place in this.
Mm.
And this is as tangible as it gets.
So change your internal environment, you will see a change in your external. And the now beautifully elucidated there. Now the only another question that comes in, won't it impact the authenticity of my life? Where this I have received, uh, I mean, in a way that whenever I try to build in a skill that is more to do with my emotional or cognitive functions, I feel like I am acting. Would my life be
Okay.
any less authentic because what I'm doing now is a practiced thought or a practiced emotion, so it's not natural anymore.
Okay. So two things. One, anyone who says that I am living my life completely authentically every moment of my life, I would like to meet them. Okay. Anyone who says this themselves individuals are not being authentic in most cases. It's practically
Or
impossible for
ignorant
someone to
as
say,
well, I would say, to some point, where we fail to see that most of the our reactions are also learned behaviors or learned through practice
see,
repeating.
so I'm actually coming to that even later. I'm
Okay.
even saying that right now when you begin and when someone says that would it be an authentic life? My question is take 24 hours of any given day and tell me out of 24 hours, if you remove the sleep part, how many hours do you really think you're being authentic? One day you got up, you just did not feel like taking a bath, but you're a very important meeting with a very important person. Okay? You did not want to dress up that day, but you had a party to attend to. You wanted to go to the party, but you did not want to dress up. Which authenticity would you select? So this idea that is it being will I be my authentic self? I'm questioning that idea itself. Authentic self is not how I'm behaving. Authentic self is what I think is important for me, and am I living in line with that or not? So if you say I'm going to a therapist, my authentic self is to be able to communicate to people how I'm feeling. A therapist can help you achieve that. If you feel my authentic self is that only with very few close people I want to share how I feel, but also I want to be able to take care of my health. So then the therapist can also help you find better alternates of expressing emotions, okay, which may not require you to go and talk about it to everyone. So that's one part of the story to keep in mind, that you when you are learning or when you are going to a therapist and the therapist is helping you, the therapist is helping you based on what is important for you, what you think is right. Isn't that one of the barometers of authenticness?
So instead of considering that, oh, because I think this is where a lot of people confuse authenticity to them, where impulsivity is almost confused with authenticity. That because it just happened, this was a more natural response, and because it was more natural, it is more authentic, rather than actually seeing that when my
Actually,
conscious thought.
no. So,
Hmm,
Sachin, no. So, I will dispute that. I'll tell you why. I have so
please.
many people who come and say that I get very angry and I know I shouldn't be getting angry.
Hmm,
They are not saying that getting angry is authentic me. They are seeking help to change. Right? So, again, people understand the nuances a lot more than what we give them credit for. But the problem is when they don't know whether they will see a tangible benefit or not. Okay, so all right, I'll give you this. I was having a conversation with someone and they shared something really interesting with me. They said when people have to select something, there are two ways people go about it. Either they give themselves reason why they should select it, or they give themselves reasons why they should not select it.
right. This can happen at an unconscious level as well.
It initiates at an unconscious level, but it also depends upon how that decision is being positioned in front of them.
Right.
Right? So, for example, people who want to buy iPhone, it's not giving them any major shift in their life apart from the fact that I own an iPhone. Right? Will actually a lot of them who are swayed by those brands will try to find reasons to tell you why they should buy iPhone, even though they may not have the resources.
Right.
Right? So now the moment you realize that the decision to change or not to change has to come from that place. If we are able to position mental health in a way in which people find reasons to improve their mental health, rather than thinking this is good to have, बाद में देखेंगे ना यार. So therefore, I wanted to just question that this idea that people, the conversation that we were having earlier,
Regarding
the
authentic,
idea.
no, that's exactly what I was trying to say, that considering or misnorming impulsivity or learned or traumatic responses that we have built up over time, and considering them to be authenticity or a consideration of authenticity, is something we should be able to challenge in the first place. That just
Which is
because
one.
yes.
And the second was what you were saying earlier about this impulsivity. I'm sharing this because I will otherwise lose a chain of thought.
Yes.
This impulsivity that you feel is your authentic self is also observed and learned from people around you.
Exactly.
Right? When you were born, you did not know how to take a bath. Today, taking a bath may be the most natural thing for some people to do. Right? Now, how is it so natural? Because every day you have taken a bath, you have been trained, your mind has been conditioned. So now, in the morning when you wake up, and if you've not taken a bath, you may actually feel something is wrong.
Right, or something missing, or yeah.
Right? So, when you see a very young baby who has just been born, is taking a bath their authentic self? So a lot of this is also learned behavior. It's just that you had learned it at a point of time in your life where you were not really, you did not even know that you are learning it.
Right.
And so today, when you look back, you feel this is my authentic self. Okay? Anyone who has ever driven a car, when you drove the car for the first time,
Hmm.
did it feel authentic? That I'm naturally born to drive a car?
Exactly, right. And now, to take that same example of yours that you're giving regarding car, understanding that our mind itself, if we were to think of it as a very complex, for lack of better word, thing, because we need to tangible make it tangible, right? It is a complex thing. It can do many complex things. And the point is, just like you would drive a car, for you to drive a car, you have to be part of a complex thing and learn the individual nuance and repeat till you develop a driving style. And I am this type of driver, and my authentic driving is this. By the time you have reached that, understand that this all happened through practice. This all happened through all of this happened through repetitive work. And through that repetitive work, when you are able to express yourself authentically, that means what you want to do, and your action, your intention and your action matches, or your emotion and your action matches. This is what we mean by being authentic. What you were complaining about was actually about not being authentic. Like, Sachin, I'm struggling, or Nitin, I'm struggling because I don't want this to happen, but my authentic self is making no. It's There is no such thing as your self coming and doing it, or you are this person who has to do this. No, you can change, and you can practice, and that you can help your authentic self to actually develop.
Plus, your authentic self itself may have parts to it. There are times when intrinsically there are internal conflict that we are experiencing where I want to do this also and I want to do this also. But the external resources are limited, so I can only do one thing.
Right.
Right? You have two options. Either you can keep getting smashed between those two parts, squashed between those two parts, right? Saying that both of them are authentic self. So if both of them want something and I'm not able to do it, it's okay for me to struggle and suffer.
So I'll just
Or you
refrain to
may,
the
both
fact
of
that
them are
this is
your
my
parts.
life. Suffering is my
Correct.
life.
Correct. And so both of them are your parts, right? You can also find a way to be able to bring the two parts together where both can systematically sequence their requirements, where both of their requirements are fulfilled.
And this
Right?
is this is what the therapist, the life coach, these mental health professionals are able to bring to your life.
Correct.
And obviously, we are not saying that the next person you go to as a mental health professional will be able to do all of these things as well. And this is why also that conversation with mental health professionals, you need, how much work have you done, not just on the theoretical part but on the application? You may have learned psychology, but have you learned how to talk to or listen to another human being? Do you have you got the skills to sit in front of, or to afford the space in front of another human being, able to offer them and listen to them with all the ways that we have spoken about today? And that also leads to all the trainings that ICHARS, even TCH is offering as well. Just wanted to kind of put in a plug in there. But yes, please continue.
Correct. So, Malak, that's the long and short of the entire thing. That this thing about authentic self is one, you need to be able to define the authentic self more clearly and more evidently, more specifically than just saying that what I do naturally, right? Second, the conversation that we were having, that many a times we people need to practice, 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 and that actually becomes a bigger problem.
Right.
Because for a lot of people, it feels going to a therapist means, so I'm already tired. अब आप मुझे नया काम दोगे, then I have to do all of that work also. And if I'm not able to do that work, then you will tell me that I'm a resistant client, right? So that creates a lot of hindrances. What I would also like to inform all of you that yes, there are certain therapeutic tools and modalities where a lot of work is required, and where it's required. But there are also processes, techniques available now where a lot of this work can happen faster. You wouldn't even realize that you have to put in so much of an effort. Some effort you will need to at least take the effort of going to a therapist,
Right.
right? But subsequently, you realize that the speed at which you're able to incorporate all of these things into what you were calling as authentic self is a lot faster than what people assume to be. In fact, it's more difficult to not do it because you are constantly having to struggle.
And this is where I think you're also referring to hypnosis, or
There are a lot of, see, for us, even those therapists who don't use who don't think they are using hypnosis actually use hypnosis. So that's a non-starter for me. But what I'm explaining is that there are tools, there are techniques, there are processes available. You will only know them when you go and visit a therapist and at least have a conversation.
right.
And that's what we are trying to bring to your awareness, that even as men, even if you feel I don't need help, right? What is the worst that will happen for you to book a free consultation session to just have a conversation with someone to understand whether therapy can help you? And
Right.
if it does, what will be the tangible ways in which you will measure results?
Perfect. And instead of, and just the way you may have an awkward first time, the first time you go to a gym, I remember my first time, right? You just feel like such an oddball going to that place. You feel like everyone is looking at you, probably judging you for your skinny legs and all of those things. And but once you have gone there, once you are able to put yourself through that process, you are able to see actually me investing this time is actually making more time for me, and more allowing me to spend my other time much more efficiently, much more fruitfully, and as per how I would want to live my life, or that authentic life that I want to lead. I'm able to do that more effectively. So in the same manner, just it's the same awkwardness that we are looking at when we are dealing with a mental health professional as well. It's that same confidence, and I think interest in one's own well-being, that one needs to be proud of, that no, I do care about my own health, and I shouldn't be looking to make excuses about it, that I am proud that I'm mentally doing actually not so bad, even when my whole country's over 50% of the population is expected to deal with mental health issues. But I am one of those few people who can claim, oh, I can sleep, where I have a good sleep cycle, I my appetite is good, or all these things that make my life just much more pleasant and worth living, and all of those things.
So, as we reach the end of today's session, right? So, one thing that I want to share with all of you is every time I've had a conversation about men and mental health, it has been funny that majority of the people in the discussion are women,
Right.
and we are talking about men and mental health. This is probably for the first time that I'm in a conversation where both people talking about, or all people talking about, in this case two of us talking about mental health, are both men. So that also is a thing to probably keep in mind.
Right, representation, we need more representation as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But like always, Nitin, I always feel like we could use a couple of more hours, and there are these nuanced areas that we could explore. And but I think just to sum it up, today we have kind of explored that for men as well, being able to recognize that a mind is a though invisible, is a very tangible resource, tool, and it requires a lot of skill to effectively handle that tool and resource. And though a lot of our upbringing, lessons, culture, society, parents, family, people around us play an important part in training us, right? Because these are trainings that we kind of intuitively develop, or have developed or have lacked in certain areas. And these because the world has also changed since we have grown up as well, the world has been constantly evolving. There are some areas that we are lacking in, or we are we are able to improve on, and it can drastically impact the quality of our life as well. And what it requires us for is to take charge of our life, our health, our mental well being for that matter, and reaching out, begin this journey, have those conversations. Yes, they are awkward, but there are enough and more resources available. You can reach out to iChars, you can reach out to the Connect Hut as well. Obviously, we'll be putting up the details of both our organizations. We have lots of even professionals that you may want to get in touch with, that will help you get in touch with professionals that will actually do what we were talking about earlier as well. So with that, I mean, absolutely fantastic as always, Nitin. Any final words from you?
No, I think this you've summed up everything completely clearly and effectively for everyone. We are hoping to work more in the area of at least being able to provide more initial free consultations to people. We are planning, we already have with Visit MHP an initiative where you can go book a session and you can actually just have a conversation with someone so that they can help you understand how therapy will help you. We hope to scale this further in the coming months. I'm hoping Rotary would be a great help for us over there. And anyone else who feels that this is a close topic, a topic close to their heart, and they would want to be able to spread the word and so on about it, please do reach out to us. We would be more than happy to see how we can conceptualize this further, expand this further in different ways. So thank you once again for those of you who have followed us, for those of you who have watched us. We would leave the details about our channels, the work that we do. Please follow us, like us, comment, as the
And
case may be.
subscribe and all the words.
Yeah, so all those things that come along with it. Even if you don't, just please talk about mental health with men and with women and with everyone else around you. It is an important conversation to have. Thank you. Thank you once again. Take care. Bye bye. Good night.